Hey guys, I'm Songbird Ultralight, and today I'm going to talk to you about my favorite light source.
So awesome.
Hey guys, hope you guys are doing well. I'm excited to talk to you about this light because it really changed the way I approach my light source for hiking and for everyday carry. So this light is called the Olight S1R Baton, and it's the S1 Baton rechargeable version. And the R means that it has this magnetic tail cap here. What that lets you do is use a USB charging plug and just clip it onto a magnet and it'll start charging. I like to charge it in the field off of my nice little battery pack here. When you connect a flashlight that doesn't have a lot of charge to it, it needs to be charged up, has no juice, you're going to see it turn red there. That little charging indicator is really handy, especially on trail where you maybe don't have all day to sit around in town. Maybe you're running out again real quick that night to get to the next shelter. Maybe you just had to run in and grab some food and you're heading back out on trail to meet your friends, but you want to top off all your electronics. It's really super handy to be able to use these charging indicators to see when your devices are done charging so you can split. Right off the bat, guys, I want to talk about how awesome this tail cap charging method is. I was worried that it was going to add a crazy amount of weight, and I was worried that it wasn't going to work very well, but this light charges very quickly, and it's very simple to leave this on my nightstand at night and just connect it and be done with it. I charge it off of just whatever USB charging block I have, or if it's a big USB splitter with 6 ports, I just charge it with whatever I have, and I've never had any problems with it. Now, the one thing that does kind of stink about these flashlights is that with the magnetic tail cap, you're adding a lot of extra weight to the charging system, and you're adding weight to the light here with the built-in magnet and all these pieces. Just having a light with a battery in it is a little bit lighter than having to carry all this charging stuff. So you might be wary of getting into a rechargeable flashlight like this simply for the fact that you think it's going to be heavier to carry everything. So I've been looking online. I was thinking maybe I could get a lighter version or something that, doesn't have this big tail cap magnet and stuff like that. It's nice to not have to take the battery out to charge it. It's really, really handy, and you can just charge it up and then pull it off. You don't need to open up, pull the battery out, put it in a separate charger, and then close it back up. You're doing wear and tear on the threading. You're also putting wear and tear on your O-rings. And just over time, I think that it's better to have the tail cap charger. And I think that in terms of longevity of the light and in terms of like ease of everyday carry, you're gonna want the magnet on the back. But for hiking, it might be good to, if you have an Android phone that uses USB micro, if you have a charger, they all pretty much have USB micro or USB-C now, but USB micro is pretty popular on a lot of them. So if you have a phone that uses the USB micro, if you have a backup battery that uses USB micro, and you can have these batteries that charge off USB micro. So what I saw is that in the new version of these lights, they're a little bit more slimmed down, they're a little bit lighter. They don't have this rechargeable tail cap necessarily. And what they've done is they've gone and put a USB micro port to charge the battery on the actual battery. So you can just take your micro USB cable and plug it into the battery itself. Like there's a little slot. That is pretty freaking awesome. It looks like those charging cables for the lights from Olight at least have a little indicator like this that show how charged the battery is. That's pretty awesome. I think you're probably going to be able to use that cable for other devices as well. And when you're charging batteries, you definitely want to have that indicator, I think, so that you're not overcharging, you're not leaving things for a long time. It's kind of scary. You don't know, like, oh, my battery's full now. So that charging indicator to me is pretty important. What I'm saying is that with a little bit lighter flashlight in the new versions, it doesn't have the heavier magnetic tail cap. Now, I don't have the new Olight to compare, but this tail cap is going to add a little bit of weight. And then if you factor in the magnetic tail cap charger, and how built up that is, see how beefy it is with aluminum and stuff, like that's really nice and high class for at home, but hiking you just want something that works. So instead of having all this weight, I mean that's pretty significant, right? you can just have the battery and the flashlight, and then use the same USB micro charger that you use for your phone, that you use for your backup battery. So it's really cool that with the new flashlights, you can charge this, you can charge this, and you can maybe even charge your phone if you use USB-C, all on the same charging cable, and you can get down to a one charging cable, one charging block setup. Now personally, I think you're probably still going to want to have two charging cables, even if all of your devices are USB-C. First of all, one is none, right? You have two charging USB-C cables. You're out in the field, one breaks, you can still charge all of your USB-C devices. I think it's a good idea. But a lot of people have an iPhone, and then everything else in the world seems to run off of USB micro, right? Also, when you're in town and you're trying to charge up all your stuff, sometimes when you're in a bubble of hikers, or if you're in a restaurant and you're trying to grab something to eat, you're at a gas station and they're letting you charge for a little bit, you're going to want to plug your stuff in and charge it all up as quick as you can. And it's not really cool to have to like plug in your phone, and then when it's charged, you unplug it. And then you plug in your battery pack, and then, or you have to plug in your light or whatever. It's cool to be able to charge at least two devices at one time. You don't want to sit there and have to watch your stuff for like an hour and a half for everything to charge. So I really recommend getting yourself like one of these Aki, I can review it in another video if you like, Aki 2-port chargers. I think they're like $4 on Amazon still. They're really good. I lost mine and had to replace it with a single port, and I was really sad because it charged two devices pretty darn quick. So I don't have one of those new lights. They look pretty promising. Being able to charge the actual battery, that's pretty cool. The ability to use USB micro with all of your devices and get down to a lighter, simpler setup where you don't have all this extra weight in there, that's pretty cool. Now, as far as this Olight goes, I have been using it. I got this for Christmas from my future mother-in-law. I've been using this exact light for over 2 seasons now. This has been with me in the freezing cold. This has been with me on the hottest days. This has been with me through just the wettest, nastiest days. It's really held up a lot. And actually, I have another video. I took this free diving. I took this down 50 feet, and it was fine. This has been beaten up. I mean, you can see there's some wear on the bezel there. You see right there, it's all beat up. I've dropped this on concrete by mistake. I've dropped it on trail, which isn't so bad. I've used the heck out of it. And it's just, it's still waterproof. And it looks pretty good, and no damage that has made the button stop working or has damaged the reflector or the LED at all. Now, I will say that I do think that as cool as it is to be able to open up and remove the battery and then use a small USB cable and plug it directly in here, I think that opening it up all the time to charge it is bad news. I think that if you're trying to charge your light, especially if it's already dark, right, and this is your only light, then opening it up just means that you're more likely to lose parts. Opening it up means wear and tear constantly, like a couple times a week. If you're really using your light heavily for EDC, opening it up, charging it, and then closing it back up, like, you don't want to have to be. It does come with replacement O-rings, if I remember correctly, but you don't want to have to be replacing your O-rings all the time. You know what I mean? You don't want to go through O-rings. Like, you want to have that replacement for if something bad happens. I've never had to replace an O-ring on this line. So I really do think it's a wear consideration, using that magnetic tail cap charger is going to be much better for the light in the long run. And as far as like losing parts in the dark and stuff, I can charge this in the dark off of my battery pack on trail, and there's no moving parts. I plug this into here, and then I attach this, and it's done, and it's charging. And I can have access to my light instantly. I don't need to unplug everything, put it in, and screw it up. Like, it's charging, and then I'm ready to use it. That's what I really like about this on trail, even for the extra weight. I do think it's worth it to have that, not having to open it up, not having to get the internal components dirty, not having to get dust in there, not having to expose it potentially to rain, moisture, whatever, if you have some kind of exposure problem. this is not going to stop working. This is not going to expose those internal components to the trail. So I think that's a very good feature of this, and I think that is worth the wait. Now, this is the same light body, right? Okay. As I started using it, I think I got this Christmas of 2016. I've had this light for 2 summers and 1 spring on the AT. So I started back in March 4th, March 5th of 2017, north from Hot Springs. So that's where this light would have been used the first time. And I carried it as my everyday carry before that in the winter months, you know, dark at night and stuff like that. So this light has seen a lot of use. So at one point I was going back out on trail and I thought, man, I have charged and recharged this thing so many times in the last like year and a half or whatever. I should probably get a new battery just in case, because I don't carry a spare battery with my rechargeable lights. I have the spare battery here, and with the battery life of this thing, I can charge it basically as many times as I'm ever going to need to with one of these like 10,000 milliamp hour battery packs. It's crazy. One thing I do want to disclose is that this is my second Olight magnetic tail cap charger. I was kind of going through and checking all of my equipment before I left to make sure there's no holes that need to be patched, make sure nothing needed to be replaced. And I noticed that the light, I didn't really notice it on day-to-day usage, but I noticed that the charging indicator, it lights up green or red, red, not charged, needs to keep charging, and green is done charging. I noticed that the indicator stopped working. And I thought like, okay, well, that's pretty bad because like I said, with the little battery that charges directly off the USB micro cable, how do you know when it's done charging? And you know, it's pretty important that my light gets a full charge. So I was like, I gotta replace this. And so I did. I don't know why it stopped working. I'm not sure if it's a warranty issue, but I noticed it like a week before I left to go back out to the trail. And I thought like, I can't wait for warranty replacement or anything like that. And I just bought another one. And I was able to buy the replacement charging cable on Amazon, and it came in 2 days. And I didn't have to worry about hiking with unreliable light. So it was nice that I could order just this piece as a replacement. I really don't know what happened. I'm thinking about sending it back to Olight, but the new one's been doing well, and honestly it just didn't occur to me to deal with that broken one or that defective one maybe until now when I started doing the video. I do have a new rechargeable battery in here. I still have that battery, it still works, it's fine, but I just figured after a year and a half of use it might be a good idea to go out on trail with a fresh one. And this is a new charging cable because that light did break on me at some point. I don't know what did it. So new battery and new charging cable. So I do think that the battery would have been fine. I mean, I didn't really notice diminished performance. It never like died on me on trail. It never died on me really during EDC use except for one night fishing where I hadn't charged it in a while, and I used it till like 5 in the morning fishing off a dock, and then still was able to use it the rest of the night in Moonlight mode. That's kind of a funny story. I got home and I was like, I wonder how long the Moonlight mode will last if I just leave it on Moonlight mode. So I put it on Moonlight mode and I stuck it on the bedside lamp, and I forgot about it until later that day, and it was still going on the half lumen. So this, like, you'll have plenty of warning before the battery dies, and then you'll be able to use this Moonlight mode for a considerable amount of time, at least until it gets light out again. So for a couple things that I really like about the Olight S1R Baton, it's going to be the size, is the first thing. This is about the size of my thumb, and I have a quarter here. You know, I grabbed a quarter out of a jar here, and I swear to God, I pulled this out, and it's a brand new shiny corner, and it's a Harper's Ferry quarter, like Harper's Ferry from the AT. I hope you can see that. Hold on. I'm like, no freaking way. I'm about to make a video about something I used on trail, and I pulled out a Harper's Ferry quarter. That's kind of crazy. So here, you can see versus a quarter, I mean, the diameter of it is pretty darn small. You see versus the height, it's a pretty pretty small light. But this bad boy gets up to 900 lumens. You can double click when you turn it on. It has a lockout. You can double click and it goes to 600. You can double click again and it goes to 900. Now it doesn't stay, wow, it's bright. It doesn't stay on 900 lumens for more than like 30 seconds max. And if it gets hot enough, which it gets hot pretty quickly because it's a really small light, it'll step down. But if you need like a burst, like, is that a bear? And you like click, and it's just a big burst light, and you can definitely see for a couple seconds before it overheats if it's like in your hand. But if it's cold out, it'll last a little longer. But it's like, it's really nice to just be able to like light up the world, you know what I'm saying? And it's a big floodlight. It's not like a beam necessarily. It's really comforting to know that like you're gonna be able to see if it's there, you know, like if there's a bear, you know, you're gonna be able to see it and not just its eyes. Like we were hiking through Shenandoah National Park. I was hiking with a guy named High Life. He's so tall that he's living the high life, and we heard a bunch of crazy stuff. We were trying to hike closer to a wayside so that in the morning we could eat breakfast there, and we heard about the blackberry milkshakes. So he's like, what is that? And we turned over and we saw glowing eyes. So I double clicked and like lit them up, and we could see that there was not one but two bears, and we're just walking through the dark with our headlamps on, and it was kind of creepy. But this light gives me a lot of confidence. I can see what's going on, and I know that the battery's not going to die suddenly, and if it does die, I can hold it down and I can get that half lumen moonlight mode, and it's going to get me through the night. And then, not only that, I don't have to take it apart. I don't have to fiddle with anything. I can just plug it in here and use the magnetic tail cap for a couple minutes and get a pretty decent charge. So the next thing I really like about this little light, after its size, is just how good the battery life is. Now the packaging says, and I haven't done like a test where I leave the light on and leave it out and test it like that. Like I don't want to do that to my light. But the paperwork, the literature says that on a full charge, you could leave this on Moonlight mode for 15 days. It'll run. And based off my use in the field, based off of the story where I went fishing until 5 a.m. and it died, and then I put it on Moonlight mode, like after it wouldn't stay on brighter modes, then it would stay on Moonlight mode. Based off my experience with the light, I absolutely believe that to be true. I really think that it could. If I ever retire this light, I will see how it does. I will do that test, but I really don't want to leave the LED on for 15 days. I don't really want to do that unless I have to. But the battery life is so incredible, and that Moonlight mode is so perfect for getting around like a shelter at night when there's other people around and you don't want to wake them up. I never really had anybody like freak out at me for not having a red light. A lot of people get yelled at if they're shining a white light around, but this is like, I mean, you can barely see it up close if your eyes are closed, you know, through your eyelids. If you're, 15 feet from somebody and this swipes them, they're not going to wake up for it. So I really, really like that Moonlight mode. It's probably my favorite thing about this because of the battery life extension and because I can get around in the dark without causing a lot of big white blinding light for people. But also when I'm by myself, right, and I'm underneath this poncho tarp and I'm laying in my bivy sack, and maybe there's someone else with me, or maybe there's people nearby. But let's say it's dark and I'm alone. A couple times that happened, and I'm camping under my poncho tarp. I'm by myself, and I'm having trouble getting to sleep. Or maybe I heard some stuff, or maybe I have to get up a lot and go to the bathroom, and it's a really dark night, and I just don't feel comfortable. I'll clip this onto one of the extra guy loops, or where the snaps are on my poncho tarp. Or I'll set it next to my water bottle so that the light hits the water bottle and like refracts and makes like a lantern. Or I put it on top of my water bottle cap and make a lantern. Should probably showed you that. Anyway, I can all night, like on a multiple night section, like if it's going to be 5-7 days and I don't feel comfortable at night, I'm happy to leave this on half lumen mode. I know that the next couple nights I'm still going to have light. Not only will it be easy to charge, like hassle-free charging if it does die, but like I know I topped it off before I left from town, so I know that it's going to be good for like 10 days. And leaving it on 1 or 2 nights on half lumen mode for hours while I try to sleep, it's not going to bother me. So I got a little night light, and it hangs, and it's not bright enough to bother me, but when I wake up I can see. The biggest thing for me when I wake up in the dark, or when I wake up sleeping in my tent or my baby sack or whatever, is I'm a glasses wearer. So normally what I do is I'll fall asleep and I'll put my glasses in my hat so that I don't like not know where they are, so I can like just reach for my hat and grab them. I don't want to like roll over and crush them or like put gear on top of them, so my hat's a pretty good place to put my glasses. So when I wake up at night in the dark in my bivvy and I need to get out of it, I won't always have my glasses inside the bivvy because I don't want to roll on them or whatever, unless it's like raining, and then I will. So what I'll do is I have this light shining. I can see the zipper, like I got enough light to work with, you know, I can open up the zipper. I don't have to hunt for it in the dark for 5 minutes when I have to pee, which is terrible with sleeping bags. I get out of my bag, you know, I can see where my sneakers are. I can see that there's nothing in there. I can see where my glasses are and put them on. And it's not like an amount of light that is like, you know, a beacon, like there's someone over there, you know, it's not like something that's really going to make me stand out. And it's something that isn't going to disturb people nearby if I leave it on all night. And also, if I get up and pee and I don't grab this, and maybe there's some moonlight or something, right? Maybe it's not like a super dark night, I don't need my headlamp. I'll get up and walk over and pee somewhere. And then I can see where my camp is because of this light, and I'll walk back to it, you know. Usually I'll take my light with me, but that's just like an example. Like you could leave this going and you'd be able to see where your camp was. So another thing that I really like about this little flashlight is that it's a flashlight. I can click it on, I can use it in my hand, and it's kind of made to be held in the hand. I can point it around and stuff. A lot of times hiking at night with a light up here, walking around in the dark, sometimes when the light's coming from right near your eyes, it kind of messes with the shadows and your depth perception. When you hold a weight down a little lower, like at waist height, the shadows are a lot easier to read, and I find that I stumble a lot less in the dark. So a handheld light, even if it's a headlamp, holding it down, is going to be a lot easier on you. You're going to be able to make better time. You're not going to stub your toe as much. Your depth perception is going to be better with a handheld light at waist level. I tried that out a couple times, a couple different ways. And if I'm struggling, if I don't want to use my trekking poles, if I'm just kind of making my way through the dark, trying to make good time, I will take my light down and use it in my hand. But then, like you might be noticing, you can indeed clip a light onto your hat. So I will say that putting any clip on your hat is eventually going to mess it up. It's kind of like a pocket clip on your pocket knife. You're going to fray your pocket out eventually. It's just something that happens. I've been thinking about adding like a piece of pleather or leather on, like a black leather strip to reinforce the edge here, because it's not like up here that gets worn down. It's like the very edge where the metal has to be forced past. This is great. You can hold it in your hand and everything, right? But what about its performance as a headlamp? Okay, you've got it on the bill of your hat. Is it heavy? It is a little heavy, but this hat fits me really well. If you have a really bad hat, then I wouldn't suggest this because it is kind of heavy. It makes your bill heavy, and if your bill is going to slide down all the time, then you're going to be uncomfortable with it. But as far as versus a headlamp, okay, I'm going to put my headlamp on here and show you something that struck me pretty hard after I started using this, and I thought, you know what, it's better than a headlamp. Okay. So most people wear hats on the trail, right? I wear a hat all the time on trail, to the point that if it's cold, I'll wear my hat for the sun, and then I'll wear my beanie over it so that it covers my ears and covers the mesh and everything. A lot of times when I'm on the move, my hat's all I need in the cold, right? So if it's nighttime, I've got my hat on. If I've got my bug mesh on, I've got my hat on. I want the bug hood away from my face. That's what the hat does. Well, when you're trying to get around at night and you turn this light on, well, this is locked too. When you're trying to get around at night and you turn the light on, you can see that the light is blocked by the hat. What that translates to is that there's a pool of shadow right where my feet are. Like, I can't see where I'm stepping. I can see everywhere else, but the brim of the hat blocks it. Now, you can see with this here, the light is in front of the brim. No part of the brim, no part of my hoods, my rain gear, nothing is extending past the brim other than the light. So I can point this light around and there's going to be absolutely no shadow around my feet. Like, there's just going to be a flood of light. This little light clipped onto my hat is unencumbered. So if you wear a hat all the time, I think that the clip-on light, whatever form or fashion, is absolutely better than the headlamp. Now granted, there's a lot of people that don't wear hats. There's people that like to wear a beanie all the time instead, or especially in the cold, they don't want to wear a hat, they just wear a beanie. In that case, the headlamp is better. Like, let's say I'm sleeping at night and I've got my buff around my head like a beanie, and I don't really want to like put my hat on just to use my light. I get that, but at that point, I just kind of handhold my light anyway, and if I can't, I'll like tuck the light up into my beanie and just have it there, and it works. There are times that a hands-free light is way better than having something that clips onto a hat, or that you have to handhold because you don't have a hat on. At one point I did fiddle around with trying to see if I could clip this to my glasses some way, but it just didn't work. My glasses couldn't support the weight, and it didn't really have a way of clipping on other than this, and it was kind of weird. For truly hands-free tasks, like where you absolutely need to have both hands, maybe you're carving or whatever, you don't have a hat, like this is going to be better. I keep this headlamp in my car now, just in case I break down somewhere and I need to change a tire or do something like that. I don't have a hat on, which is crazy that I wouldn't have a hat on, but like just to have like a backup headlamp for someone else. I've always got my EDC light of some kind, but maybe I'm using a click-tail flashlight. I'm using something else, like maybe I'm using one of these that I can't clip on really to the bill of my hat. I actually need hands-free, so this won't do it. So I'm not failing to acknowledge that there are times where this is more hands-free. This is, better suited for use as a headlamp than a clip-on the hat option. But I really, really do like this for being on trail. And I think that, more modular, it works on your head. It's easier to hold in your hand compared to a headlamp. I really do think that for me, the clip-on light works a lot better. Now, talking again, a headlamp versus a flashlight, specifically rechargeable flashlight, you can get batteries that fit into these compartments. They're made to plug into USB micro, just like I was talking about where the little flashlight battery can be charged to USB micro. So they make little USB micro rechargeable with light indicators and everything to show when they're charged or not that fit in these compartments. But when you first get these lights, they run off of 3 AAA batteries usually, or a couple AA's if they're heavier, but usually AAA is the way to go. And when your light dies, you can't recharge it off of a battery pack with a charging cable. Stock, you gotta carry 3 or 6 or whatever extra spare batteries. So in that regards, like that means you got to go to town, you got to find a place that sells batteries, you got to go to a hardware store, you got to go to a Walmart if there's one. Sometimes little mom and pop groceries don't have batteries. You got to go and you got to find, a gear shop and pay premium prices for batteries at these tiny little places in the middle of nowhere. Everything is really expensive, like in the middle of nowhere in the mountains, these tiny little trail towns, mom and pop stores. But batteries can get really crazy expensive. And when you buy a pack of them, you can't just buy 3 batteries. You need 3 batteries. You buy like a pack of 4 or a pack of 6. Then you got all these extra batteries. You're going to carry them the whole time. I think it's cheaper in the long run. I think it's easier in the long run to just charge everything off of a wall plug. There's wall plugs everywhere. And being able to charge your devices off of these backup batteries that are so small now. This 10,000 milliamp hour battery is 6.3 ounces. It's pretty insane. So versus having to go get AAAs and wasting AAAs or hiker boxing AAAs, or maybe you get a pack, and like we used to do, we all had these headlamps, we'd split a pack of AAAs between like 3 or 4 of us. Instead, you can just plug in. You don't have to go find those batteries. You don't have to just be throwing money down the drain. On a long hike, it's crazy to be buying batteries all the time when you can recharge. It's like, imagine if you had to change the batteries on your cell phone all the time. Like, you're actually using the light every single day, multiple times a day. You're actually using your cell phone multiple times a day. If you had to go and buy and replace actual physical batteries all the time, instead of just using rechargeable like built-in battery, you'd be furious. You would throw the phone in the garbage. And on trail, I kind of got that way with the headlamps and with the lights that use the non-rechargeable batteries. It just doesn't make sense. Like long-term, like long-distance hiking, the rechargeable is the way to go. All right, so I'm gonna throw one last thing at you. They make this exact light, but instead of the reflector, the bezel, the light bulb being up here, they make it on the side. So you can click and the light comes out this way. And it's kind of weird that it'd be a flashlight like that. Like there's some bigger military style flashlights that look like that. And I was like, huh, maybe that's why they do it. Nope. They make that version of this flashlight so that you can wear it as a headlamp. It has a band that you can purchase, this little thing that holds it. And then there you go. You've got a normal headlamp, a lot like this, but with all these Moonlight mode features, the really bright 600 lumen, 900 lumen double clicks. You even get the strobe if you triple click. So you can get that headlamp, like, you know, kind of cross compatible. It's like a headlamp and a hand torch. I think it's kind of weird to hold a flashlight like this and shine it instead of like that. But I guess it's even maybe more ergonomic or more natural. I haven't tried it out yet. I probably would try it out if I had to replace this light and I wanted the exact same thing, but more, you know, hiker oriented. But again, adding those features is going to add weight. And I think since I wear a hat all the time, I think it's just better to have the hat clip on there. Another place that I think that the headlamp wins out against most flashlights is that most of these little flashlights, they've got great battery life. They've got the Moonlight mode, which I really, really like. They've got the small form factor. They've got, you know, the modularity and all that. Very durable, waterproof. But these waterproof headlamps are pretty good too, and they have red lights. So if you don't know what a red light is or why you'd use it, so white light, as you can see there, is really blinding, especially when your eyes, like this camera lens, are used to being like at a certain brightness, getting flashed all of a sudden when you're trying to sleep, or when you're walking around at night and you look at your buddy's face, he sees that in the dark. It's awful. It just wipes out your ability to see in the dark, and it leaves spots in your eyes, and it kind of almost like feels like it hurts in your head, you know, a little bit. Like, you're like blinded, you know, come out of the movie theater and it's like too much, I can't see. You're dazzled, right? This light has the Moonlight mode, but it doesn't have the red light mode, which on most of these lights, you just hold it down. That isn't gonna like put spots in your vision. This is pretty adjustable. You can turn it up and down. But a red light is like the ultimate in getting around camp at night in the dark. It is kind of hard for me to see with a red light, but it's really, it does work. You just have to kind of take your time, and it is more camp friendly. If you're going to be at shelters a lot, if you're going to be with people, you're talking to people in the dark and stuff, looking at each other, the red light is considered polite. So this light doesn't have the red light, and that's its major failing. I do sometimes feel like, oh man, like I'm shining my white light around in the shelter, but it's a Moonlight. Like, no one really cares about the really, really, really small lights. It's when you're trying to shine this around in the dark when people are trying to sleep, they're really going to get pissed off. So that is one thing to keep in mind, is that you're probably, in a lot of cases, going to want a red light. And if you don't have a red light, you're going to want to stick to that lowest setting that you have, that Moonlight mode. Now, as a last tip, guys, because I think we're going to wrap this up. If you don't have a red light, okay, and you have a really strong flashlight, one thing that you can do is you can obviously cup your light with your hands and only let a very small amount of light through. And in the darkest shelters at night where you're really worried about waking people up and you're trying to be quiet, you can let a little sliver of light through, or you can just close your fingers. You can see how my fingers are glowing red. You pretty much can have your like little teeny glow that gets you back to your sleep system from peeing outside, gets you back into the shelter without waking anybody up with a bright light. It's really pretty important to be courteous in the shelters. You think like, oh, you know, they're for everybody, and like, you know, I don't have to be, you know, if you don't like it, don't sleep in a shelter. Well, you can think that, but you know, you're gonna be in these shelters on and off for a really long time, hiking long distances on trail, and you're gonna see a lot of the same people. So it really pays to not piss people off. If you're gonna go be a jerk, it's gonna come back to bite you. Not only will your reputation get around on trail, on a longer trail, people will talk about other hikers. If you're a jerk, everyone's gonna know, and no one's gonna wanna hang out with you. If you're a real, you know, I don't care, you know, whatever, like, you really need to be apologetic where you do mess with people, where you do shine them with your light, be polite, be nice, have good camp manners. Where you have it, use that red light. Where you don't, be mindful of the fact that your white light can disturb people. So thanks for watching. That's pretty much all I've got for you on the Olight little handheld flashlight. I do actually recommend that light in particular, S1R Baton. This is the original one, I guess, that I had. I know that there's a new one out that is rechargeable. On the kits that you see online, I don't know if Olight sells it that way, but on Amazon it's listed as rechargeable, and it has the battery inside. You have to open it up and plug it in. I don't like that as much. It's really nifty, and you can use the same charging cable for multiple things, but I do like that tail cap. So if you do want to try this light out, go for the S1R Baton. I'll put a link down below. I don't have an affiliate link anymore. It expired. I didn't make enough sales. So it's disclaimer, it's not for my profit. I'm just giving you guys links so that you aren't finding the wrong thing, okay? So if you want to look for it on your own, there's the name, S1R Baton, and it's Olight, O-L-I-G-H-T. So guys, thank you so much for watching the video. Hope you guys liked it. If you did, hit that like button, the little thumbs up there in the bottom. If you have any questions in particular about this light, headlamps, whatever, brands that are good, why do you have a black diamond and not use it? You know, leave a comment down below. If you want to see any of my other gear from this last hike, I've got one video where I show everything that I came home with. And I'm going through all of the gear that I brought home with me at the end of the trail, and I want to tell you guys how it did. So if you want to see something sooner rather than later, request that piece of gear specifically. You can go back and check out that video where I do a roundup of all my stuff. It's at the beginning of this playlist. But yeah, thanks again, and we'll see you in the next video.